This is the A to Z podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, at Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott on most of your favorite social media platforms. At Facebook.com/A to Z podcast, at A to Z podcast.com. Shouts as always to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks, always open at AmericanFireworks.com. It doesn't seem like that it's going to be fireworks season at any time, but I mean, it is February, Dre. Like, we're getting a little closer. We had some real snow the last few days. I'm just going to say it. We've been quarantined here going on 2 full weeks. I just had to do video call. I haven't had a haircut in 7 weeks. We are really, really fortunate. We have awesome friends and family who have taken care of us, and they've been sending food over, and I like food. In this instance, the easiest thing is to send Italian food, right? Pizza comes in boxes.
Yeah.
And pasta can be thrown into tubs. I mean, I've eaten so much and then gone back to laying on the couch. I'm now staring outside like the lost puppy that I am. And I guess we'll talk some sports if you want.
Quarantine 15. Starring Zach Jackson.
Minimum. Lasagna for breakfast, baby.
The way to go. It's a Super Bowl week. And it just seems inevitable that just about everybody you know has gone through some quarantine of some sort. I had my scare last week where I actually took the test, not the anal one that they're trying out in China. I think I want to avoid that one. But I mean, you just wrapped up really everyone's whole year, in one way or another. But it's Super Bowl week, and we all know that you have your feelings and thoughts about what should happen in the Super Bowl. Kind of funny you had to go on a quarantine after you wrote that. Let me start this. Let me just say something. I think it's sports talk, and I'm not Joe Loeb, Yad Budsman, or anybody like that, or I'm not, the spokesman on what can and cannot be talked about on radio, but the Lord knows I've heard it all. I think the cool thing about sports talk, and whether it be the A to Z podcast, whether it be your favorite show that you call it 216 Sports, whatever the number is, I should know it, since I still kind of steal money doing that. Regardless, the greatest part about sports talk is BSing and sitting at a bar and having those type of conversations that you have, knowing that it's mostly 90% bullshit what you're talking about and discussing, but it's fun to discuss because that's how sports go. Whether it be with trading cards as a little kid, whether it be in hot stove talk that we used to have with baseball, but baseball does everything ass backwards in 2021. So conversations are had. And I don't understand locally, and I do understand putting anybody down. I know they've been so backwards and whack when it's the Cleveland Browns, and especially quarterback position. You guys from outsiders, what happened last week with this Mayfield or John Watson, there's about a 3% chance that it could ever happen. So therefore, if there's something to a 3 to 6% chance of it happening, I don't understand how people get out of the pocket about it and just can't have the conversation. Is it going to happen? Like I just said, there's a 97% chance it's probably not going to happen. But isn't that the beauty of sports talk when you're sitting around a bar or you're sitting around, a barber shop where you just bullshit and BS about, hey, what if this guy happened to play for this team? Or what would you do in this lineup? I just didn't understand just the craziness and how you guys, some of you guys stick up for Baker Mayfield better than you do for your mom or your girlfriend. I don't get that. I don't.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I was doing the Asking Jackson mailbag yesterday, and there was a question, and I said, I picked this one right away as I sorted through them. And I said, and the reason I did is because I don't think it has an answer. Matter of fact, I know it doesn't have a real answer, but it reminds me of a question that you and your buddies would argue, or a scenario that you and your buddies would argue about while you're having some beers, right? And so,
right.
That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun, right? That one was, can you win a Super Bowl if your top 4 receivers are OBJ, Landry, Higgins, and DPJ? And it's like,
ooh,
that's a really good question because
it is.
You got some varying talents there. You got some real talents there. You got an emerging guy or potentially emerging guy in Peoples-Jones. Like, clearly in that game, the Browns missed Odell Beckham, or they missed that guy that can really stretch the field, and they need that guy, right? There's only one number 10 that we're going to see on Sunday night. There's only one of him in the whole world, and they got him in the 5th round because of his circumstance, and they stuck with him because of his talent. But, a guy who can do some of the things he can. take it on reverses and jet sweeps and, give you a different look in the slot, and then occasionally just run as far as he can, as fast as he can. And if he catches one out of every three, you're in business. I'm not sure that group has that guy. I think I think it's completely fair to wonder about OBJ and his age and his salary coming off this injury.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I got something off this. Let me ask you a question. For the money and the dead weight that it would take, because I've already stated, I think OBJ should be on the team. I think anybody that states they're better without him don't understand how offense works, how guys line up. That's my opinion. I'm not always right. Can they, because whether you have OBJ or not, you have to have someone that can stretch the field, as you were saying. You're going to have dead money if you were to cut him or to trade him. You're not going to get anything for trade because he's coming off an ACL injury. Can you find someone that can stretch the field and deal with the salary cap ramifications if he's not on the team? Is the question I would ask you.
Yeah, no, they're in good cap shape. The thing is they're headed for potential cap issues because of all the guys you want to extend and keep, and you obviously need to upgrade the defense. But they're plenty good on cap money. Now, the one thing you look at is, okay, the receivers are your two highest paid guys, and they're both going to be 28 going north. And then next year, before you add anybody this year, you're looking at like 7 or 8 guys who will make $10 million or more, which is what Super Bowl teams have, right? But 3 of them would be OBJ, Landry, and Austin Hooper catching passes, and nobody else has that set up. So, that I think that it's. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I would say let me pause on that. Let's pause on that part of it. You're right, but let's erase 2020. The salary caps are going. I know 2021 is going to be different. Salary cap. NFL's got money set for years. So they got like a $9 billion coming in with TV contracts. The salary cap is going to change. I mean, between the Browns' offensive line and what you just stated with the 3 pass catchers, is that a big deal? Yeah, it's a big deal. I'm not belittling it. What I'm trying to say is, I think that's going to become kind of the norm with certain teams going forward. Do you understand what I'm saying that way?
Yeah, well, it's all in how you're built, right? It's not just stack talent or stack big contracts or whatever. It's all in how you're built. If you're the Chiefs and you got Pat Mahomes, then like what Tyreek and Kelsey make is not nearly enough.
Right?
Like their worth to your team is not nearly enough. I will tie these 2 conversations we've had together this way, Dre. Like as they go about making decisions, some in the next 2 months, but more of the big financial decisions are going to come 12 months, 18 months from now, as the Browns try to open this window, try to push up to really be in the elite, and try to win trophies. Andrew Berry cannot let personal feelings get in the way.
Right.
And when those of us on the outside, that's just what it is. You have favorite players, you have your favorite team, obviously. And as we say all the time, if you've been rooting for the Browns through all this, then you deserve to enjoy it. But like Jarvis Landry, for example, who I sing the praises of, and he means so much more than what he shows up in the box score, right?
For sure.
And busts his ass and can play any receiver spot and always blocks and always shows up to practice, to games, to the meetings, and brings it. We've seen it. Hard Knocks showed us that. We've seen this 10 coaches they've had in the last 6 years talk about that. On third down, they go to Jarvis Landry, and he makes the plays. But Jarvis Landry's not getting any younger. Jarvis Landry had never missed a game in his career until the COVID thing in Week 16, which tells you he's got a lot of miles. He had the hip surgery last year. He had the cracked ribs. Like, eventually, you're going to have to take your feelings out of it and make a decision on how much you can pay Jarvis Landry. Like, right? That's not now. Yeah. That's not next month.
No.
But, like, you're going to have to do that. The thing with Watson and Mayfield, you said it right. It is a very small percentage chance that it would happen. But the reason it's a realistic discussion, there are 2 reasons. One, Deshaun Watson has a no-trade clause, so he dictates where he goes. The Browns have potentially the NFL Coach of the Year, right? Arguably the best offensive line in the league, and a discussion we're having about a receiving core that's potentially good enough to win, in addition to the best 1-2 running back punch in the league. Has Deshaun Watson ever had any of those things? No. He's had a left tackle for a couple years, and he had one dominant receiver for a few years, right? Anyway, one, he can dictate where he goes, and two, if the Browns were interested, and we don't know, we know they should be, at least in exploring it, they can offer in Baker Mayfield what almost no other team can offer, right?
Exactly.
So whether there are 25 or 28 or 22 teams that realistically, if the Browns saw themselves as one of those, they could offer a quarterback who's under team control for 2 years, who's playing at a really high level right now. And that would be something that if the Texans say we have to trade this guy who is our franchise, who's undoubtedly one of the 5 most talented players in the league, who's worth every penny, that would be one thing that they would attack rather than taking a package of draft picks. We don't know if any of that's going to happen. Right. But I can assure you, even for those of you who want to tell me or act like that Baker personally last summer climbed the tree and saved your cat all by himself, you have to say, like, right? The goal is to win the Super Bowl. So they've arrived at that stage. You want to tell me we're not trading the quarterback that got us to the playoffs? I hear you. However, in 20 years, it will be 20 years before another player of Deshaun Watson's caliber is made available. So if you don't discuss that in the realm of all your discussions about how can we take that next step, how can we beat who might be the greatest fucking quarterback to ever live and who's 25 years old, because that's who you have to go through to win a Super Bowl. And we've gotten a lot of things wrong on this show. But, like, after Patrick Mahomes' third career start, we told you this guy might be the greatest to ever do it.
I remember that, yes. Well, let me say this. Andrew Berry ain't doing his job, people, if he doesn't have this discussion. Like, that's part of the job is, and I think, like, and this takes us perfectly into the Rams. And I'm not tooting my own horn. Zach may not admit, but I've been trying to tell Zach for probably like 8 weeks because I watched, and I'm not putting anybody down. Zach's working when the 4 o'clock games come on during the season. I ain't doing shit. I'm usually on my 4th beer, on my 5th TV, and I'm watching, and I'm having the time of my life. And I told Zach, like, back in, like, I don't know, November, the Rams are done with Goff. Like, you can just tell how they ran their offense. I know that the reaction has been like, oh, my God, 3 first-round picks. Can I think that – and I can think and I will think. I think the trade the Rams made with the Lions is perfect for both sides. I really do. The Lions aren't going anywhere soon. They've been in the same situation that the Browns have been in for years. They gave the new coach, the Mr. Kneecaps himself, 6 years. That basically says we're starting over. We're going to tear it down. Now they've got a quarterback. And look, if you like Goff, that's fine. To me, the problem with Goff is he has to have a running game, has to use play action. That's how the Rams had success with them. When McVay wanted to change the offense, felt like Goff couldn't do it. They did the same thing with Todd Gurley. Now I know there's people out there, and look, we're built upon this, and this all plays together. We're built upon loyalty. We're built upon, falling in love with our players. Zach made a great point of a general manager can't play favoritism to his favorite player when building the perfect roster or building the team to win. And we always talk about windows opening and closing, and I've always been for that. And I kind of talked about this, I don't know, during another season. But to me, what the Rams are stating to us, whether I agree with it, whether my grandfather agrees with it, or whether you agree with it, they're saying we've got Aaron Donald, who's one of the most fearful, forceful defensive players in football. We may have 2-3 more years of him being just this wrecking ball in the middle of our defense. We've paid Jalen Ramsey to be one of the best corners in football, and he's done it. That's only going to last 2 or 3 years at most. To them, their best chance to win a Super Bowl in the next 2-3 years, considering the division they're in, and considering what league they're in, being in the NFC, they feel like Stafford can do it. And let's be honest, are the GM and the coach going to be with the Rams in 6 seasons? NFL stands for not for long. If this doesn't work out, they say, shoot, we shot our shot. Shot didn't work. We tried our best. We move on. I don't have a problem with managing that way. I don't have a problem with the team saying, you know what, we drafted Goff, number 1 overall. We got to the Super Bowl with him. We gave him a contract, and now we're realizing that was a mistake. We shouldn't have given him a contract for where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. We're going to make better of it, because most teams and most general managers, in my opinion, they would make a mistake on Goff and they would ride that to their firing. It would hurt the rest of the team. They would overpay for a guy that they know that pulls them back, and they would just die on that tree. Now, look, Zach may come back at me in 2 years and go, hey, McVay and crew, they just got fired because they screwed up McVay, or they screwed up Goff, and they screwed up Gurley. Or we may be looking at this as this is how young guys that run franchises do it now, because NFL stands for not for long. These windows don't stay open very often. And if you just win one of these championships, it changes your whole life. I understand what they're doing, what Les Snead is doing. I like it. I like what the Lions did, and I think we're going to see more of it. And I think it plays in perfectly to, if you are the Cleveland Browns, you are close. When you get close, you don't get scared and stop trying to get better. You continue looking to see how can we take that next step. So I just think that's where the NFL is at right now, and I kind of like it.
I mean, I agree with almost everything you said here. I would just wrap it up by saying this. They can't win the trophy with Jared Goff. They knew that. No. So right. We can sit here and debate whether they can win it with Matthew Stafford. None of us know that answer. But they knew they had to move on, right? And they knew they had to structure this trade and give up enough to make people on the outside say, wow, they gave up a ton. Because that's what they're chasing, one trophy, right?
Right.
I think, and I'm not trying to turn this into I promise you I'm not trying to turn this into Stafford versus Mayfield or can Mayfield win the Super Bowl, because I've told you I don't think he can. I don't know about Stafford, but the Rams have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, okay? That gives them a chance. The Browns have Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. That gives them a chance. Are those two Donald and Ramsey right now? No. Are they close? Yes. Are you seeing the comparison here? Are you knocking on the door? The Rams made it to the same round of the playoffs this year that the Browns did, right?
Yep.
The Rams have been taking out different mortgages on their house salary cap wise for 3 seasons now. 2 seasons ago they were in the Super Bowl. So yeah, do I think the Browns are right there on the doorstep? Yes. In the NFC, the Rams can get there without having to go through the Chiefs. Now, potentially, the Rams are going to play in the most loaded division in football.
Yes.
If the Niners get Deshaun Watson, your 4 quarterbacks in the NFC West would be Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford, and Russell Wilson.
Good Lord.
Even if the Niners don't get Deshaun Watson, if the Niners get healthy, they have half the team back that played in the Super Bowl just 365 days ago. Right, guys? You have to go for it. The Browns are in fine shape cap-wise. Okay, they got some pretty clear defensive holes. Last year they came in with a brand new GM who did a darn good job for his first year. They came in with a brand new head coach who did a darn good job for his first year. And they took a roster that, as we all saw, was better than a 6-10 roster. They won a bunch more games. How can they get to where they really need to go? They need to improve the defense. I would just say this about Baker and Watson, and again, I'm not going to dwell on it. If you actually read the article, I outlined the possibilities, small, and the realities, many. I'm going to say this. If you really think that the Browns need the 26th pick in the draft that badly, then they're not a Super Bowl team. They're just not.
Right.
And 11-5 was a mirage. Do they need reinforcements? Yes. Do they need to be better at key positions and have a stable of defensive backs rather than? But they won 11 by throwing those guys out there, right? So yes. So the one, will I absolutely hear your arguments that there's no need to disrupt the chemistry that the head coach and the quarterback and the receivers have? Abso-freaking-lutely. Will I listen to your arguments that by giving up a couple of draft picks you would sacrifice any chance? No, then you people don't know what you're talking about, and you're just arguing for the sake of arguing. You're pandering to those people who listen to you, right? That's what it is. I'm just saying, guys, winning 11's hard. We all know that. I know that. You know that. Everybody listening knows that. Is the next step harder? Probably.
Yes.
Those of us here in Cleveland don't know that for sure. Yeah, I'm just saying,
it is.
It is. So you have to, as we've mentioned, whatever the evaluation is of Baker, of Denzel, of Wyatt Teller, of these defensive free agents, of anyone else, the Browns not only have to nail those evaluations, but they have to know how close they are in when they plan to go for it. because as disappointing as it was to lose that game when you had chances because Mahomes got knocked out, it was still a great season. 12 wins, buried the Steelers, buried all the dubious streaks in the longest playoff drought in the NFL, something that defied all logic and all odds, 19 seasons without making the playoffs, right? But it's still the start. It should be the start of something. You can't take for granted that getting there, you'll just get there again. You'll just win 10 or 11 again. You can't do that. But the Browns are positioned to continue to ascend. It's about getting there and winning that trophy one time. The Rams are in on that. The Chiefs are uniquely positioned to win a bunch of them. Can the Niners get back, Trey? I don't know. They might need Deshaun Watson to get there. Can the Bills topple the Chiefs? I don't know, but they're in your way too. The Ravens, they're in your way too.
Wait. Yeah, I got to say something. The Bills general manager, help me. I know
Brandon B.
It doesn't matter. Brandon, yes. He came out last week after losing to the Chiefs and said there's a lot of separation between us and the Chiefs. I thought that was a huge statement because Buffalo, like back-to-back playoff team. They've obviously turned it around. They found their future quarterback. You guys, people know. And for their GM and coach to come out and say we still have a lot to go to try to catch up with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I saw that on AFC Championship Day. I'm pretty sure you guys did, but you don't hear general managers say that very often. And to me, and then not that Andrew Berry has to say that for the Browns, because the Browns, we may be sitting here a week from now going, the Browns had the best chance to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs in 2021. That I could very easily see that happening because of the injury to Mahomes. And I think that's the part that stinks because that's what we're going to remember. But you're right. This is a great building block now, and it is harder, people. I've had people tell us, coaches, general managers in all sports, saying it is so much easier, and we've said it on the podcast, so much easier to go from bad to good to average, average to good. The next step to great is hard because you have to make decisions upon people that helped you win. Yeah. They're going to have to make decisions on DBs like Money Mitch. Like we all think that I think you and I think he may be a 3 corner at best, maybe a 4. But we found out in 2020, your 3 and 4 corners may come up pretty big. And when you play Kansas City, you're going to need 3, 4, 5 corners to play them in certain sets and certain things that they play in. So then you have to ask yourself, what is that worth to me? What is a 4th corner, a 3rd corner worth? Can he play special teams? Can he help us in other places? Is he a good enough guy in the locker room? Those are hard decisions because it's easy to say, well, we can just draft a kid out of Boston College that runs down the field. He can cover kickoffs. If he can be our 4th, he can be our 4th corner, and that only will cost us $800,000, right? Mm-hmm. Or do you say, and these are the decisions that make a difference. Or do you pay $2.5 million for, I'm just using a number, 3.5, whatever, to keep a guy who's not one of your main guys, who's not a guy that, that you put on the program or you put on the tickets on game day, but you do need him for his importance. You said that about Jarvis. To me, Jarvis is worth every penny he makes before you even go on the field, and it's pretty obvious he's worth that money on the field because when it's money downs, that's who you go to. Like when you want to move the chains, right, that's who you use. He changed the attitude of your team. So is he worth maybe whatever he's making? Okay, let's say he's making the same amount as some guy that's, 3rd or 4th in receptions in the NFL and a burner. Is he as good as that guy per se? No, but he's worth it for your team because of all the elements he brings. That's why this is going to be hard. And I'd say as Browns fans this, you're not most likely going to you're most likely not going to lose your favorite player if it's Baker Mayfield, whomever else. But over time, if this team becomes something and is good for 4 or 5 years, there are going to be some guys you like a lot right now that aren't going to be a part of this team in 3 years. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Yes.
And if the team is good enough, if they're good enough at what they do, a la Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, they will draft guys that will fill in and you'll fall in love with and forget why you like a guy like Money Mitch, who I'm just using as an example.
Wise people have told me this, and it plays out. Outside of the Myles Garrett's, the Tyreek Hills, the top of the top in this league, Dre, personnel is fickle. Why? Because there's a lot of good players. There's a lot of good players. And injuries happen. Careers are short, right? Guys want to get paid and play a certain way, handle it a certain way. Guys do get paid and handle it a certain way, a different way. Like, to me, the Browns are sustainable because they're young and they're talented and they have a couple of great players and a bunch of really good ones. But, like, what makes it sustainable as they try to get those good ones better and keep them good is the O-line, right? They're well coached. And they're finally at a spot, and this goes to what you were just saying, of keeping their own guys and knowing. Because for years, they've changed systems, they've changed schemes, and they've had a whole lot of guys who are just NFL players, right? Whether they drafted them in the 2nd or the 5th, who didn't work here and went somewhere else and played because they got lost in the shuffle of the new guys, right?
Mike Adams, Pop.
Right.
Pop became like he was a good player, but everybody here was just like, is he a corner? Is he a safety? He's a nice special teams guy. He played like 8 more years and went to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, what do you
and like nobody, not Ozzie Newsome in his prime, not the Steelers building these teams, not anybody, has ever run off a draft where like 3 drafts in a row they draft 15 star players. That's not how it works. Right. But where the Browns have gotten screwed and done this to themselves through the years is so bad and starting anew and trying to do this, trying to outsmart everybody, that you're trying or need to, or both, draft starters in the 3rd and 4th round, right? Whereas once you're settled, you're taking guys that you're supplementing, that you're saying, we're not sure what this guy is or if he's a day one starter or if he's a starter at all. But we know he makes our group better when we got to go to Kansas City, right? When we got to go to Baltimore, which is where the division still runs through, right? So, like, all of a sudden, it's just so much easier to draft when you're good. It is. You don't draft as high. But, like, at 26 this year, Dre, they got all the options. If they think they need to go up 10, 12 spots and get a guy, then again, what in the world does next year's first-round pick, what does it mean to you? Not jack shit.
Nothing.
That being said, if you sit and you wait, and now all of a sudden 24's up, and you still got 3 guys you like because you like them all, and they can all help you beat the Chiefs, beat the Ravens, fix your defense. Now you can trade back and pick something else up. And I'm just saying right now on February, whatever it is, 6 weeks out, like the Browns are in a healthy cap spot, and the Browns are on that verge. Where the Browns can really make some headway is by trading their picks for proven players for the next year or two. Right, when the Eagles and the Saints and other teams have to shed this cap space. It doesn't mean you're going to get a star. It might. You might have to give up a ton for the Marshawn Lattimores of the world, obviously, and some other guys. But, like, they did a really good job. They came in last year, and they were super aggressive to fix the offense and help the quarterback and evaluate the quarterback. Now, on the defensive side, they've got flexibility. They got a lot of open jobs. Every single defensive free agent they signed last year was to a 1-year deal. Why? So they can evaluate those guys, know which ones they want back, and have that money recycling this year. Like, the Rams are the biggest example of this. You can always find money in the NFL, right? Like the cap exists, but by restructuring and pushing it forward, you can always mortgage on the house. The Rams are on their 4th mortgage. I mentioned that earlier.
And like I said, when it blows up in their face,
and so knowing you can do that,
walk away.
Yeah, so knowing you can do that makes it so much more important that you know what you have and what you need, right? Like, I don't think the Browns are 1 linebacker or 1 safety away from winning the Super Bowl. But those guys would sure help, right? Like, they need to look at Myles Garrett. What kind of players around Myles Garrett? Like, I don't know. Larry Ogunjobi didn't have a great year. He's not going to get a bunch of money. He might be back. He might not. They might have other plans for that spot. I know Sheldon's 30.
D linemen get money, though, Z.
They
All
do.
It takes is one team to offer
especially young and athletic ones like Larry. Mean? Yes.
Yeah,
so
right.
What I'm saying is, like, you got to get rushers because that's the best way to help your secondary. And even though you're counting on Delpit to come back and you're counting on Ronnie Harrison, who is a steal for a 5th-round pick and was a good player, he was hurt a lot too. For my money, I need a veteran safety on this team because I got to take 6 defensive backs to make it to game 18, game 19. Right? I cannot live the way I lived last year with a fucking rotation of Sheldrick Redwine and Andy Sendejo. I can't live that way.
No.
Right? So,
yeah.
So now that the Rams and the Saints have to put guys on the market because they've spent their money elsewhere, I'm looking into those safeties. And then in a year if Grant Delpit's a star, then you've built a monster, not a team. But like, these decisions are hard. These decisions are more important. You're right. But theoretically, they should be easier because when you're evaluating your own stuff and in your own schemes and you know your own building, your own roster, and internally you really know what you think about the guys you have and what you need, starting with the coordinator on down to the practice squad guy that got called up last year 3 times, like then you really know where do we push our chips in and go.
Yeah. Another team on their 4th mortgage, the Seattle Seahawks, who trade, they do things differently. You just look at their roster. Jamal Adams, there was no way in the world you could have told me a year and a half ago Jamal Adams would be on their roster and paid how he wants to be paid. Yeah. But he is. It's just that's how they do business. A couple things off of that. I think this is fun because, all right, for me personally, and I didn't even want to talk draft or talk this, but because I got a question I want to throw out to you. I have to draft. If I'm the Browns, I want to draft a young defensive end, and I want to sign a defensive end who's gotten after the quarterback. To me, the race to the quarterback in the front 4 is the thing, because that's what the Super Bowls are getting ready to be about. Think about what's made a difference for the Tampa Bay Bucks, that they're able to get pressure. We can talk about Brown being on the team, Fournette, obviously Brady, but Shaq is playing better than he ever played. Not ever, but pretty close to how he played when he was on a Super Bowl team the last time, right? Shaq Barrett. And you can say anything about JPP, who has been hit or miss for the last 4 or 5 seasons, but suddenly the fire's been lit. They've got 2 fast linebackers. They got, you just look at how Tampa Bay built. It was sexy to talk about Brady. It's sexy to talk about the receivers they have, but they built a defense quietly, and paid certain guys on 1-year contracts, 2-year deals. They got Ndamukong Suh, who's made all of his money already. That, Jason Licht has kind of showed you how to take the steps and not worry about paying the rent or getting that next mortgage, especially when you go all in, when you put all the chips on the table for Tom Brady. So I wouldn't worry about. I like where the Browns are at, and the other thing that the Browns have is that they have players on their roster right now who have room to grow. Nick Chubb can get better, and that's crazy to say. It's weird to even come out of my mouth, but it's true. Baker Mayfield can be better. Myles Garrett can be better. Ronnie Harrison can be better. I think they need linebackers. That's a whole other story. Can 21 be better? Maybe. I like where they're at. This should be a fun time of the year. And I guess all I was trying to say at the start of this is you can't get your panties in a bunch about a conversation about getting better when you're there. Yes, Baker Mayfield is a huge reason why you won 11 games. I will not take that from him. He played so much better in the second half. But you have a base now that not only do you have your quarterback of the future, and what is the future in the NFL? What is the
next
future?
Week?
Thank you.
Yeah.
The future's the next game. So, I know everybody wants Bernie Kosar. We all do. We all want it. And I know GV Arts and all the T-shirt companies do too, so they can sell some TM T-shirts to people that actually play here. But, and this is a sports thing. The loyalty of sports, we're more loyal to our teams than the teams are to the players and the players are to the teams.
That's
please
right.
remember that.
That's right.
Please remember that. And please be that. It's true.
So, you made a good point about Tampa's defense, right? I mean, there's one way that Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid lose the Super Bowl, and that's that their offensive linemen they've been losing them like crazy, right? And Tampa's defense has been getting better. And the one way you envision it is they get back there and cause turnovers. Those linebackers flying around, make a tip ball interception, and those guys coming off the edge in the fourth quarter get to Mahomes before he can let it rip, right? That's the blueprint, right?
For sure.
So when you look at the Browns' defensive line, you got Sheldon Richardson, absolute baller. You got him for one more year. He's 30 years old. Playing at a peak level, playing the way he plays. He doesn't miss games. He doesn't miss practices. He's been around the league. He's played different positions, different schemes. He plays his ass off. You got him for one more year. You got Miles, freak of freak, peak of peaks. You got him under contract. You got nobody else, man. You got Adrian Claiborne, who's a nice guy to have and tutor this guy you're about to draft. You got Adrian Claiborne for one more year. I mean, I thought he played really quality snaps this year. It's year 11 or year 12. He's 33. You got Andrew Billings probably coming off the opt-out list. On a one-year deal. He's playing for a contract. What is he? Is he better than an average NFL player? I don't know. We're going to find out.
I think he's a better run stopper than the guy. I think Ogunjobi's gone. I think that's Bill.
Yeah,
I forgot about
it does
Billings
point
will
that
be your
way,
run stopper.
right? You drafted a kid in the third round last year, a defensive tackle, because you knew that you were facing some decisions with Richardson, with Ogunjobi, with Billings only coming in here on a one-year deal, although obviously nobody knew of the opt-out at the time. So Yeah, so you're just not there in that regard, right? Like you've got Miles, and we've seen what peak Miles can do, and Miles changed 6 or 8 games this year for you.
Right.
Obviously you hope and pray that there's nothing like COVID ever again. You need Miles to change those 6 or 8 games, starting about the time that Baker changed his season, right? Because those are the ones that everybody's going to remember. But the best way to support him and the best way to do that is to put better players around him. And Vernon balled out for 6 or 8 weeks. There's no question. I mean, give him all the credit. They're going to miss him. And he was going to make money. He still probably next December will make some money, assuming he gets healthy and all that. But, like, they're just thin, Dre. You don't know about Greedy. So that made Mitch your 2 corner. He's a free agent. Kevin Johnson was your slot corner, your 3 corner. He's a free agent. You didn't have another one. You got MJ Stewart on a cheap contract for 1 more year, so you hope like hell that he can be your utility defensive back and get in the right place at the right time like he did 2 weeks in a row, right? Like your job of your scouts is to go out and replace him, but you've got him. And this year they started 9 offensive linemen. Counting the 4 different guys started at safety and 3 different, they started at 7 corners. Like, you have to plan for that. You have to say, we need 11 NFL quality defensive backs. So you're going to have to invest resources into getting that.
Let me ask. Go ahead. You got to go something.
No, I just was going to say, I'm just going to finish my point by saying Andrew Berry gets an A. Not an A+, not perfect, no one is, but he gets an A for his first year. And what you said, what's the future in the NFL? Well, what's yesterday? It's gone too. Like, he's not starting over really because he knows, but now every decision means so much more because you've buried the past. And he deserves all the credit for that, along with Stefanski, along with the players that we've already named. But
dude, win 10 games next year. They can put up a poster of him.
Yeah. But also, you could have some things not go your way and be 8-8 next year. And right. And he's got to make the right calls, and he's got to think our window to try to do this and try to close this gap and win actual trophies is now. So what can I do to do it? He's got to do it, or else things change quickly.
Absolutely. I think they're in a good place. It's going to be fun. Here's something. I heard Ryan Leaf on with Dustin Fox and why can't I think of his name? And Bull yesterday. And I heard something I heard Ryan Leaf. I never thought I'd say this, but I heard Ryan Leaf say something pretty cool that I instantly thought I wanted to talk. And I'm saying I'm not stealing it, but I heard it and I was like, I got to talk to Zach about this. I love this idea. And this is one of those, sitting around the bar BS moments. And, Ryan Leaf goes, and Ryan Leaf, number 2 quarterback. Look, Indianapolis Colts almost selected Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning 19 years ago or however long ago, which is crazy to say, but true. And
23 years ago, you're getting old.
Damn, yeah, I am. 23 years ago. Man, I looked good 23 years ago, too. But if Tom Brady, who I think we'll all go down, he'll go down as one of the best ever at quarterback. If Tom Brady is drafted by the Browns instead of Virgin Wynn, is Tom Brady Tom Brady? And before you answer, because I'm going to give you 2 of these to go off of this, and I just think this is a fun conversation to have. And if Mahomes gets drafted by the Chicago Bears, is Mahomes the Mahomes we see right now? And I don't think either is. And I think that's a crazy conversation because these 2 guys, and don't buy that hyperbole that these guys are trying to make you run to the TV and entertain these crazy stuff about Mahomes has got to win this game to possibly ever be the GOAT. That's dumb. That's stupid. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time, regardless if he stays injury, if he doesn't have a terrible injury. And Brady's Brady, no matter if he goes out and throws 8 interceptions on Sunday. But I think it is a great point. So when we have these conversations of, I don't know if Tom Brady is Tom Brady if he doesn't get drafted into the situation he was drafted into, Zach. Yes, he's got the work ethic. Yes, we can talk about all the great things he has to make him who he is. But if he doesn't go to New England and get coached up by New England the way he did, I don't know if he is who he is. I know Sean Smith maybe told me years ago, he kind of made the same point. And look, the Chicago Bears, a couple teams messed up royally in not taking Mahomes. But Mahomes ain't Mahomes if he's in Chicago with the receivers and such. Andy Reid was perfect for him. Would he still have a chance to be good? Sure. But I think that's a legitimate question to talk about when we talk about players. Would they be the same if they were drafted by different teams, Zach?
Sure. I mean, it is. We said there's a few great ones, and there's a lot of good ones. And the lines are thin, right? Now, I think with Mahomes, the talent was going to shine through. So, was he going to win 14 games his second year, his first year as a starter? Without Andy Reid, without Tyreek, without Kelsey, I think you can debate that. I don't think you can debate his outright greatness. With Brady, yeah, obviously, the system and getting in the circumstances the way he did. Now, I think he goes to the Browns or someone else. When his number was called, he was going to show poise and preparation and just things that those other guys weren't going to show. Now, was he going to win a Super Bowl in his third year? Right, and then all of a sudden, the whole structure of everything was built around having him and what he could do. And I mean, I think that's an understated part of the great run they had there. They were always 12-4 to 14-2, and always in the AFC Championship game. And sometimes they ran it, sometimes they threw it deep, sometimes they played through three tight ends and never threw it deep. Right. I think was Tom Brady drafted somewhere else going to be in the discussion for greatest football player to ever live? Probably not. Is Pat Mahomes at the end of his career, if he doesn't get drafted by the Chiefs, going to be in the discussion for greatest football player who ever lived? Probably. But, his story is really just now being written. Those are interesting things, but your larger point of environment, of system, yes. And that's why the Browns, for the first time, are uniquely positioned to help these guys go from good to great. It's, to me, why signing Nick Chubb is a no-brainer, because Kareem Hunt is a great player. And we saw when Nick Chubb was out that he's not near the player that Nick Chubb is. Right.
That's a great point.
Exactly. It's, like you said, he can get better. Well, he absolutely can. He's finally going to have the same offense, the same calls, the same offensive line, the same reads off the first linebacker or the safety that comes down in the box, right? He's going to have a chance to get better as a pass catcher, to get more explosive in the open field. I mean, I think Nick Chubb was underused this year. The Browns still got to week 19. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes, organizations, coaches specifically, systems, but organizations matter in unlocking average to good, in unlocking that perfect fit, and certainly to me, in unlocking good to great and super memorable, and teams that go on runs that you remember for years and years and years.
Well, Tyreek Hill, who I'm not a big fan of because of the off-the-field stuff, whatever. He, on most, and you and I both know this, most teams draft him, whether it be the fifth round, whether it be a free agent, he would have been used as a kick returner and a slot guy. Andy Reid has made that guy. I mean, and this is why Andy Reid is brilliant. Andy Reid is, and I'm not going to say he's Bill Belichick, but he's close. And I say that because he went to 3 NFC championship games in a row with Donovan McNabb under center and never in shotgun. I give him credit because he's grown and changed as a coach. He's an offensive, but he's I know he's in his Philadelphia days. We made fun of him for how he kind of did use the clock. He wasn't the smartest with the clock and that, but he's been innovative. And I'll give him credit on a guy like Tyreek Hill. Most coaches didn't or don't know how to use that type of ability, right? We watched John Gruden this year go out and get one of the fastest guys in the combine, and I know it was only the first year. He had no idea how to use him. As I'm reading stories from about the Raiders, they're like, "Why'd you go out and get this speed receiver, and you didn't even know how to use him the best way, to help your offense?" I look at Denver; they went out and got they got Judy, and they same thing. I read stuff about these two Alabama receivers who I think we all thought were pretty great, and obviously they're rookie receivers, and obviously this draft class it's unfair because we had Jefferson in Minnesota. We've seen some of the young receivers now come in and just blow up. We think they all should. It's a hard position to figure out in the NFL level.
It is.
But my point is, man, if you get the right coach that understands the talent he has, and I think Tyreek is the perfect example of that. Because most coaches would be like, okay, he's fast. Let's put him in kickoff returns, use him in punt returns, and we'll run him on a couple of reverses. Andy Reid has turned their whole offense out of speed zones and speed motions, making your safety come over the top or go back 20 yards because everybody's afraid of this guy's speed. And then you put a tight end in Kelsey, and you made him into the best tight end in football. And basically down the middle of the field, they assault you like no other franchise has ever assaulted the middle of the field. It is. I love watching what Andy Reid has done with this offense, but it plays into drafting players that fit who and what you are. They got all. They don't even need Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll have him on Sunday, and he'll run a couple motions. They'll throw him a couple screens. That dude was the 4th pick in the draft.
Well, he hasn't even played in the playoffs. He's been hurt. Yeah, they haven't needed him.
Right.
The first time they played the Bucs, and it was only week 12, so it's not that long ago. Tyreek had 200 yards in the first quarter, Dre. He finished 13 catches for 269 yards. So, of course, they're not going to cover him the same, right? They're going to come out. They're going to have bracket coverage. They're going to have the deep safety. They're going to mix up the looks. Well, for the first drive or two, Andy Reid's just going to say, okay, and they're going to look over there, and then they're going to throw to the other side, or they're going to throw to the middle. Yep. And then after that, he's going to move Tyreek to the slot. He's going to move Tyreek to the backfield. They're not going to sit there and play that way the whole game. Like, they have this incredible marriage of brilliant play caller, right? Incredible talent, but they have the imagination. They have the adaptability. I mean, I keep coming back to, I think, the world of Denzel Ward as a player and a person, what Travis Kelce did to him in the middle of the field. Guys, that's one of the top 10 corners in the National Football League. Travis Kelce's a 31-year-old tight end, right? Like,
hey, and I don't blame the Browns for putting him on him either.
No, it's great. Like, put 2 guys on Tyreek and put your best corner on Kelce. I think you might see some of that on Sunday, right? I mean, now the Bucs are one of the few teams that has linebackers that can run with him to an extent.
True.
And can allow you to do some different things. They can hit you with some looks and some pressures because of their superior athleticism at linebacker. But yeah, that's the thing. And like, I'm looking at the Super Bowl props, Jay. Like, who, first touchdown and first Chiefs touchdown and all that stuff. Like, Andy Reid and Mahomes are so good that I would not lay a dime on any of that, even though I think Tyreek's going to have another huge game and Travis Kelce just spits out 8 for 110s, like crazy. Right. Because when they get down there, they might throw the fullback, that underhand shit, right? Like, they will throw to the 5th receiver. You show them what you're going to play, 2 guys on Tyreek, your best corner on Kelce or whatever, bracket him in the middle. They'll just throw to the guy that's open all year, all the time. They don't care if Byron Pringle scores in the Super Bowl. Like, they are so good. And I just think to hold them under 30 points is, if Mahomes plays 4 quarters, it just doesn't happen. So I think the Bucs have a chance, and I feel really confident that Tom Brady and Mike Evans will play well. But ultimately, like, if Mahomes has the ball last, he's going to score.
If Tampa has the ball last, Tom Brady ain't going to score?
He better score with 2 seconds left. If there's 3 seconds left, Mahomes will score.
All right, let me ask you this. I love this. We did this with we did this in the pregame show. You weren't with me on the pregame show. If you have your choice, who do you want? If you have your choice, Brady or Mahomes, 1.5 minutes left, down 4, who do you want?
Mahomes.
Okay. Wow. 6 times. And I'm not saying – I mean, the best part about this question, there's no wrong answer.
Yes.
There really isn't.
No, there really is.
There's no wrong answer.
There really is.
So you say the over – you think the over is going to be hit?
I do. I think, we had – 2 years ago was especially bad because that was the Jared Goff game from which I said he'll never recover. And last year the game stayed under. Last year the game stayed under. It was a really competitive and entertaining game. And obviously the Niners came inches from hitting that big one, and the Chiefs put together a couple of just awesome drives. But I think Brady starts hot.
Time out. I got to say something. Time out. I'm sorry. You just hit on something that roundabouts everything we're talking about. Remember what you're saying. The 49ers are Super Bowl champs until Sunday if Garoppolo hits one pass.
That's right.
Garoppolo gets hurt this year, and none of us would bet any money that he's a starting quarterback in 2021. That's how things change.
They change.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yes, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And like, it is not hyperbole to say that Mahomes can win 8 of 10. Like, he's that good, and they've surrounded him in this environment like that good. They probably drafted Mecole Hardman because of Tyreek's legal troubles, right?
Yep.
But like, and like last year, I think they tried to force it to him, and he was a rookie, and it's a really hard game, and it's especially hard for rookies, especially at the highest level.
Yeah.
But like, you notice both playoff games, whether they count as runs or passes, he has huge plays. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's comfortable and they're comfortable, so they unlock a completely different dimension of their offense. And eventually it'll be his time to run as fast as he can, as far as he can, and they'll hit him more than 1 out of every 3 times. Like, in an ultra-competitive league that changes all the time, like, what they have is freaking phenomenal, and it's just going to be really tough to beat. It just is. That goes for the Browns, for the Bills, for the Ravens, for Justin Herbert, for wherever Deshaun Watson lands. Like, it's going to be really, really hard to beat the Chiefs this Sunday. Next random Sunday, the Browns might play there in the Thursday night opener. Like, if the Chiefs are engaged, put it this way. They sat their guys week 17 this year, Dre, right?
Yep.
They lost 1 game during the year. The Raiders played them awesome 2 times. The second game was 40-32. The Chiefs won. I think it was way back in week 5, which is like October 10th. The Raiders won.
Right, Jesus.
Counting the playoffs the last 2 years, throwing out week 17 when they sat their guys, this team has won 25 of 26 NFL games. It goes back to week 5 last year when they dropped one, I think, on a Sunday night to the Colts, or maybe a week after that they dropped one to someone. But like, it goes back to October of 2019.
That's
and it's February 2021. They've won 25 of 26 National Football League games, half of which played under extremely high stakes.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. If you're Andrew Berry right now, and you just listen to this conversation, and you know all those numbers, and I don't even have that answer to this because it just hit me as you were talking. Are you more worried about building more offense? I mean, I don't even know where you could build more offense for the Browns other than what you do at 13 and how you get speed. What are you trying to get to fix the Browns to be able to go against this offensive force? And defensively, they are so much better. And I knew that, and I kind of was saying this before we got to the playoffs. I kept hearing Browns fans saying, we can beat the Chiefs. We can score. Their defense is good. They've set it up. It's not great. You don't have to have great defenses in today's football. The way the game's played and the way points are going to be scored, the way it's officiated, you're not going to maul receivers at the line of scrimmage like you used to. Teams pass so much, they're going to score because you can't touch receivers past 10 yards downfield. You just can't do what you used to be able to do defensively in the NFL. And a team like like Kansas City is proving it on how they run their offense. If you are, let's say you are Buffalo's GM, Browns GM, Raiders GM, the hell are you? And we saw in the AFC West last year, and I keep bringing this up. They all went out and tried to emulate Kansas City and get speed at receiver, big arm quarterbacks, tight ends that could fly. That's all that the AFC West did, trying to keep up with Kansas City. If you're the rest of the NFL, how do you keep up with the Kansas City? Like, what do you do? Do you get another receiver and try to score 40, or do you try to get 3 corners? Because they even have a corner. Their third corner is he's their second guy in sacks. They use that Swede kid who runs a 4.3 40. They use him perfectly, Zach. They use him almost as their blitz linebacker on passing downs. They're doing things so much differently than everyone else. It is fun to me to watch these other GMs say, how the hell are we going to catch up with the Chiefs?
Yeah, no, you need a stable of DBs. You need a stable of DNs. And you need to score with them. Like, you are not going to beat them 21-19, right? Like,
no.
you need to create big plays, and when you've done that, then you need to use your running game as your defense, right? The Browns were right there, played them toe to toe, and I know there were strange circumstances with the no call, the Browns losing the touchdown early, and then Mahomes is out, but like, you cannot settle for threes and you cannot punt. That doesn't mean in the first quarter when it's, you take a sack and 4th and 19, you don't punt. But, like, what did Buffalo do? They kicked a bunch of field goals. They went home. Like, you have to say, we are playing to 40 points. And there will come a time, but this time won't come until after halftime when we might have to adjust off that number and make some other decision. But we are playing to convert 4th downs, to get touchdowns, not field goals, and get to a certain number. And if we get near that number, then our third defensive end, then our third corner. I mean, it's hard. It's hard, but to beat these guys in a big game. And I do think a big thing for the Browns is they get to play them in the regular season next year. And I don't care if they lose by 40. I'm not saying they will. I don't think they will. But I think that would be so big if the Browns are really a contender next year because you get to live it to know it. And I think that's so big for Tampa. They got so overwhelmed. George, you know in that game in Week 12, Tampa won the toss at home, deferred. Boom, 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 8 plays, settle for a field goal. Tampa 3 and out, boom, 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 Tyreek Hill, touchdown. Settle, turnover, Tyreek Hill, touchdown. 17-0, 13 minutes into the game. You think Tampa wins the toss to take the ball this time? I think so.
I disagree because Bruce Arians is old school and don't give a bleep about what we tell him.
Okay, well, he's trying to win the Super Bowl, so he needs to take the ball.
Let me finish, though. I love you nerds that get caught up in deferring and not deferring. I've deferred from day one. I know you got your 2-point schedule in your little 8th grade notebook. Mine is on deferring. If you're worried about one possession, winning or losing a football game, you ain't got a chance to win the game. Bruce Arians is not caught up in getting down. Now, look, getting down 17-0 was a problem, obviously. Mm-hmm. One possession better not win or lose you a football game.
It doesn't. But when you're dealing with this beast, See,
I disagree. Okay, here, I'm going to tell you why. People were saying this to me. I had certain people saying this to me about the Browns-Chiefs game. I'm glad you brought this up. And the Browns deferred. And I said, you know what, though? If Hot Rod Hollywood Higgins keeps the ball and goes in or goes down to 1 and the Browns score a touchdown there, and then they get the ball back and score out of halftime, is anybody bitching about what they did and deferring at the beginning of the game?
No, not at all. It comes down to execution.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, it's more important to me whether I'm winning or losing. And I think, and I know, like, this is just my football thing. Whether I'm winning or losing, I want the momentum to change, and I want to be able to change the momentum to start the third quarter. If I'm losing, I want the ball. If I'm winning, I want the ball. Because here's the deal. You end up playing defense differently and offense differently at the end of the first half if you know you're not getting the ball back. If they go on the 4-minute offense and you're like, shit, we can't let them go 4 minutes, score before the half, and then we have to give them the ball back. Our offense may go an hour without being on the field, and it can switch points. I understand the theory. I understand the thought process. I just 100% disagree with it.
That's fair. And I didn't say that's the be all. I'm saying for the circumstances, like when you know what you're up against, I don't want to give Mahomes the ball and let him break me. Like, I'm at home. I'm Bruce Arians. We're off that break. Brady's sharp. Like, I want to get the ball and I want to go right down and let him score. And I'm not discounting what you said, and it never does come down to one possession. I'm just saying. Everybody comes up to their own thing. Yeah.
And I'm not even going at you so much. And I get what you're saying in the Super Bowl. But shit, let's say you get the ball first, you kick a field goal, you have a nice drive, Brady does this, you get a field goal, you're up 3-0, and then Kansas City rolls off 21 in a row. That first, I understand it, but there's so many more depth to the game, and I know you know that. I just want fans to stop with that, because I keep hearing it. And I hear Munch yelling at me during pregame shows of the last few years, and I love Munch. And I'm like, dude, if you don't shut up about the first possession, like if you don't stop him in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th possession, you're going to lose anyway. I can see what you're saying with Tampa Bay's situation, but you got Tom freaking Brady. Look, it will be debated. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm sure people will debate it. I just think that offense is so damn good. And look, Tom Brady is usually better in the second half than he is in the first half of most games.
Yeah.
So
there's a play that sticks with me from the start of the Tampa Green Bay game. I think it was 3rd down. I'm not sure. It's the first drive of the game. And he sticks one to Mike Evans, right, for about 30 yards, and they score 2 plays later. And I just think, that's Tom Brady being Tom Brady. Obviously, Evans and Godwin are as good as anybody. They're in that top tier, right? Like, I'm playing at home, and that doesn't really mean anything anyway. I'm just saying I want the ball. I want to score first because I'm trying to write a different script than last time, and it was a nightmare script. The game will not be decided by the coin toss. I'm just saying there's a little more thought that goes into this one, playing Kansas City, having played Kansas City, and what's at stake. Then yes, anybody that ever thinks that in Week 6 Browns versus Dolphins that it matters who gets the ball first, no, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying here, knowing what you're up against, knowing you're gonna get, what do you get, Jerry? 7 possessions in a game, 7 to 10 in an NFL game,
7 to 10.
Yes. knowing that you're going to have to get points on 5 to 7 of them to raise that trophy.
Wow.
Right away, I want
Good point.
That's
I know.
You're right. No, it is so many games, especially lately. It feels like in these playoffs, it has been a huge, huge thing to get the ball first. And then in the third quarter, the Browns made that run. But they just didn't execute early, right? That's the only Chiefs game in the last 2 years in the playoffs that the Chiefs scored first, the Browns game.
Wow.
And that that didn't dictate it. I'm just saying, if I'm Tampa, I want the lead. I totally I trust Tom Brady if it comes to that. We got him because we want the ball and we want to know that we're not out of it if we're down 10, or certainly if we're down 6 with a minute and a half left and got one timeout, right? But I want to write a different script than the last game, and I want to leave it to my pass rushers. So I want to have the lead if I'm Bruce Arians and Tom Brady.
Yes.
Hey, we got 11% phone battery on this computer because I'm not in my normal spot because all hell has broken loose here over the last 2 days and 2 hours. So it's time to wrap it up.
You wrap your shit up. So you're taking KC is what it sounds like.
Yeah, but the 3.5, depending on where you get it, I'm debating that. But I think the team total for Kansas City is 30, Dre, and I just think Kansas City scores 31 or 35 or maybe even 38-41. And I think they win a close competitive game. I think they really pour it on in the second half and win a 34-31 type game.
Dude, I would totally be with you if they had one of their starting tackles. And I don't want to make a big deal about it, and I know everybody else will.
Well, it could be a big
not
deal.
Having Fisher,
yeah.
Right. Not having Rimmers start on one side. Last time Rimmers was in a Super Bowl, he was a turnstile. and helped lose the game for his team. And I'm not jumping him. I mean, it's tough. And, we watched the Browns go through this. And I think early on you'll see Andy Reid. Look, he knows JPP and Barrett are going to be foaming at the mouth. You will see a lot of tight end screens. You will see screens of every sort, just like you see with the Browns offense early on to kind of thwart that pressure that they're going to get early. That's my only hang-up. If they had one of their starting tackles, because you saw against the Browns, Andy Reid basically, remember the Browns were putting Myles Garrett on one side completely by himself and 3 guys on the other side. I love what they were doing. Andy Reid is smart enough to be able to cover up having one bad tackle. Covering up 2 bad tackles, especially the way they like to get guys out in the process, I'm curious to see what that looks like, Zach. I am.
Yeah, I am too.
That's my only hang-up.
I am too, and that's a concern. I would say that, with the time off, Mahomes should be more mobile, right? There was times in the playoffs that the foot or toe, whatever it is, was clearly bothering him, right? He was hopping around. And I think, they don't have a run game, and Tampa Bay is number 1 against the run, or certainly in the top 3, even if they're not number 1 against the run. So, I think their only run game is going to be those jets and end arounds and reverses. I think you're going to have to do quick hitting screen things to say, hey, even with Pat Mahomes, we want to stay out of 3rd and 8 where Tampa's going to bring guys and our tackles have to hold up. Everything's going to be quick and go. So I like if you're looking at the props, completions or catches for Hill and for Kelsey, especially for Hill, because I think they're going to do a lot of quick ones.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to. I don't even know who I want to take to be completely honest. I think it's gonna be a great game. I really do. It's gonna be a Super Bowl like no other. Obviously, with the pandemic, it'll be. I'll be eating all my favorite foods and won't be nearly as many people around me. I'm sure Twitter will tell me everything I'm right and wrong about. I hope everybody can do that. I agree with Zach. This game should be on Saturday night.
Yes,
I think is the night that he would like it. I totally agree. This year proves it more than any other. I am kind of sad, though, that football is over, so much so that I was actually watching the Hula Bowl from Hawaii Sunday night.
Even I didn't watch the Hula Bowl.
Rex Ryan was the coach, got doused with water.
Oh, my God. I'm so glad you said this because I have an American Fireworks Glory Days story for you.
Perfect. Let me just say 2 other things. Let me say 2 other things, and then you can wrap up everything else with that. I know, some people will take this wrong. Some people will take it right. This is my baseball thing. I'm glad we're going to have baseball. I'm so sick of hearing them fight about just how ridiculous they are. But it's what baseball is, and it's unfortunate because it is a great game. At some point in time, I do want to have conversations about how to make the game better. in everyone else's eyes. I know we're all sick of hearing the players' union and management go back and forth. The Nolan Arenado situation, I like I said earlier about we take things personal for our personal teams because that's the team we watch every week and every night and every day. But what happened in Colorado, what happened here in Cleveland, what happened in Boston last year, until Major League Baseball wants to be big boys and look in the mirror and realize that when the team drafts players, cultivates players, and they turn into stars, and the teams can't keep them, whether they're in Boston, whether they're in Colorado, or whether they're in Cleveland, you have a problem. I know it's easy here in Cleveland to be pissed at the Dolans, pissed at the Indians, pissed at the situation because it's personal. At some point, and we don't take Major League Baseball as a personal thing. I get it, but I hate it because Zach and I are talking about the NFL and trades, and we talked, a couple weeks ago about the Harden trade to the Nets. And by the way, if you're into the betting and putting some money down, just always take the over on the Nets, and you can sleep happily. If you put $100 down over,
it's 243 tonight against the Clippers. Is the total?
Take it. Put $100 down. It's $1,200 in your pocket. Take that from Uncle Dre. It's money in the bank, baby. It's so much fun to have hot stove in all these sports and talk about putting this guy on this guy, and it sucks because, and it goes back to what I was talking about with windows. It's 2021. In 2016, when the Indian season ended and the Chicago Cubs season ended, the Cubs finally won a World Series. The Indians didn't, as we all know. Both fans from both sides said, man, our windows are just opening up. This shit's going to be fun for the next 10 years. Wrong. It goes quick.
That's right. No, that's the whole theme of this podcast is when you get there, man, you better make the right decisions and you better go for it because you are not guaranteed for it to last one more month, let alone 3 more years.
Right. And right. I'll say this because I know people tweet at me and everything else. It ain't my jurisdiction. It ain't and what I get paid for, don't get paid for. The Mickey Callaway story is sad in its own right. And for people that want to blame teams and things like that, man, look in the mirror. This is America. This is what's happening in America. It's been happening in professional business settings for umpteen years. And I'll be real with this. Until men deal with this situation and call it out better, it's going to exist. The old boy network has always been there. I'm not blaming anybody. It is what it is. And it's unfortunate because
it is.
It sucks.
And I'm not making light of anything here. We tell you on this program the 2 things that are undefeated.
Yep.
Screenshots are close thirds, so keep that in mind as you go about your life.
Somebody tweeted us the ground is undefeated too. Didn't somebody get hurt? They was like, the ground hurt.
Oh, yeah, somebody said, BJ Goodson. Yeah, they said, what happened to your shoulder? He said the ground is undefeated. I said, no, BJ, let's talk. Let's talk about what's really undefeated. All right, so quick story here is we're down to 2% battery. I have a group of friends that I went to college with that they go every year on Martin Luther King weekend to Vegas. And I have only gone, I think, once. Maybe I went another time, and I just was so young and so dumb that I don't remember it at all. But, my excuse has been I'm usually covering a coaching search. And then, frankly, as I've gotten older, like, I know what a weekend in Vegas would do to my body and to my life in general. So I just have made even in the years I haven't been covering a coaching search, I've chosen not to go, right? So the one year I went, a lot of fun. Like I said, this was 12-ish, 13-ish, 15-ish years ago. So had been separated from college and from my buddies, had a great time, did the whole thing. Well, Sunday afternoon there were NFL games, and I won. And I hadn't slept in days. I hadn't eaten a good meal in days. I hadn't done anything. It was time for this party to be over. So as I'm at the window collecting my money for whatever NFL game that I won on, I look up and the Hula Bowl's coming on TV. And Justin Zwick was playing in the Hula Bowl. So this tells me this was like 2006 or 7, right?
Right.
So I just was like, well, I love Justin, but I know what his environment's like in an all-star game setting, and it's tough. I don't think he's very good. So I took all of my winnings and I put it on under in the Hula Bowl. So I got the ticket, and I went up to the room and I went to sleep. Didn't even make it to the bed. 3 hours later, I woke up, turned on the TV, and the score of the Hula Bowl was 6-3. I cashed my ticket on the way to the airport about 3 hours after that and went home for the one and only time in my life, a big winner. That's been American Fireworks Glory Days. Thanks to them. Thanks to you guys. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk to you soon.
Bang, bang.